we all talk about climate changes and global warming and war right now, taking it a bit further maybe. Just not talking about the problem, or more like talking about the solution or how to handle it, instead of just accepting that someone else should take care of it.
Meow! I'm Huples cat. I'm a Brit and I live in Canada, and I'm going to show you a German documentary about Swedish prepping. This one is about a prepper family, so if you've got kids, this might be quite applicable.
Skärholmen, a suburb of Stockholm. This is where Robin lives with his partner Mikaela, their daughter Juno, and their son Luve. Robin and Mikaela are preppers, meaning they try to be as prepared as possible for any type of emergency.
Is that your definition? As possible and for any emergency. I really like those two ideas. I think it's flexible but also coherent.
What happens if there's a blackout and our whole apartment is dark? What do we do?
I'd light one candle and then another.
And
then? How do we cook?
We can use this oven here. I think it gets really hot.
If you have children, I imagine, I do not have children, that you would actually want them to be trained and competent to actually cope and survive in your absence. I do know that questions and answers from an engaged audience is a great way to learn. I also know that training has to be appropriate and fun and directed by the children themselves. If you decide to go in there for 20 minutes every morning and teach them something on prepping, you may have an adverse reaction, and you may even put them off prepping for life.
Robin and Mikaela quiz their kids regularly. He's a 43-year-old truck driver, and she's a 37-year-old kindergarten teacher. They also ensure their prepper kit is up to date. It's estimated that 20% of Sweden's population makes these types of preparations.
Every Swede is supposed to be able to take care of themselves for a few days without having to go to the shop or the store for any reason.
This is actual Swedish government policy, not her opinion. So if you haven't downloaded the Swedish government booklet, which you can in English, it's in my description. I suggest you do it. It's really, really good. It covers areas that aren't typically covered when we talk about prepping, including information and fake news. And things like fighting forever. The government will never ever give in. And if they've been told, the people that they've given in, the government surrendered to whichever enemy's invaded, don't believe it because it's not true.
So we have decided to store some food and supplies elsewhere than in the normal cupboard in the kitchen.
That's smart. You always want to maximize your existing pantry stocks before you start filling up extra boxes of food. When you start filling up extra boxes of food, try and at least initially have food that you can actually put into your pantry as your pantry starts to empty. Rotation is the way to go. In practice, for me, I don't really rotate that much. I just store and discard. It's what I do. It's easier for me, but I do try and rotate, but I don't do an efficient rotation.
In time of a crisis, I can, be sure that we're safe, or at least, a little bit more comfortable, and we don't need to drain resources from, the larger society and community, because they'll be taking care of other people. Like sick and elderly people are going to need more help.
If you don't understand what he's talking about here is the fundamental belief behind social democracy. This is self-sufficiency for all, in partnership with the government, so that unable and the vulnerable can get more help than they otherwise would get, but everybody gets help.
This brochure came out a couple of years ago. It says if the crisis or the war is coming. Every household got this, and basically it shows some scenarios.
It's a really decent booklet, and I recommended it before. The Swedish government in 1961 released a booklet that they gave to all their population, telling them how to deal with war. Now, in 2018, the Swedish government have now released a booklet telling their population what to do with war, EMP, terrorist attack, and fake news. There are some videos, and I don't recommend you look at this. Au revoir.
Here's about the Swedish defense system, and there's also these checklists for food, water, heating.
This is the English version of the booklet. It's really nice to include vegans. A lot of vegan staples are actually a great prepping food because a lot of them will not go off and add taste and texture to very bland foods. You can also see the cultural differences between Sweden and Canada.
That all changed, so now they want you to have more so you can sustain yourself for a longer period of time.
Yes, 2 days is no longer deemed acceptable by the Swedish government for their population to prep. I don't actually know what it is now, but a minimum of 2 weeks would be what I would say I would expect and hope the entire population could have ready to eat and drink in an emergency.
Robin and Mikaela want to be prepared for the worst and make sure their children are too. Once or twice a month, the family sets out to the forest, even when temperatures are below freezing, like on this day in early April.
Look, this has to be fun and something the kid enjoys, otherwise it's child abuse. Or even if your kids do enjoy it, but your partner doesn't, that would be spousal abuse. Please don't go military or aggressive on your loved ones. Please make it fun. Please make it ad hoc and relaxed.
What Sweden is facing is we made our society really vulnerable. The goal is to be, the first society without any cash, which is kind of a weird thing because that makes us really susceptible to any kind of cyber attack. Shut down our electricity, shut down the power grid. If nuclear weapons go off, it doesn't really matter how much I've prepped. We're pretty much f***ed anyway, so.
That's an accurate analysis. Society as we know it won't be back for decades or centuries.
At the beginning, Mikaela thought her partner's hobby was peculiar, but she's since been convinced of its importance. Practicing outdoor survival skills is also meant to teach 12-year-old Juno and 5-year-old Luve about perseverance and working together, like when building a simple shelter.
Pull this line further down, then it's nice and taut and the wind will blow over the roof and not under it. Here, I'll hold and you'll pull tight.
We all talk about climate changes and global warming and war right now. Taking it a bit further maybe. Just not talking about the problem, or more like talking about the solution or how to handle it instead of just accepting that someone else should take care of it.
An excellent approach, but I wouldn't use a hammock tarp system. In bug season, which I presume in Sweden is April through to August like it is in Canada where I live. Until then, thanks for watching, I really appreciate it, as does Wolfie. Stay calm, stay safe, and hope peace breaks out soon. Doodles! Doodles! That's it, Wolf. Bugs are terrible. The major reason I'm against hammocks is the simple fact that it's very hard to get out of one fast. You can only get out of it from one area, and most importantly for me, the bugs are right here all night, buzzing at me. Hideous! Ultralight tents weigh and take up as much space in a pack as a tarp and a hammock system. They also can go up a lot faster and come down a lot faster than a hammock tarp system. For those reasons, I like ultralight tents. You may not, but that's my reasons for that, and I'm sticking to it. Obviously you have to search a bit more to get flat ground. You don't need that much flat ground. I really wish you guys could be with me here. This is why I do this. Not for the deer flies, but for this. Trees, water, stillness, calm. Alright. Look at this. Friggin' deer flies.
When Juno turned 4, her father gifted her a sharp knife. They practice with it often. Her survival training has already come in handy. When she and her friends got lost in the forest a few years back, Juno instructed the children to use their bodies to spell the letters SOS in a clearing. The search party quickly located them.
Are adults that smart? I don't know, if I was in a group of people and we were lost and I could hear a plane coming overhead, I don't know if I would have thought, oh, everybody lie down in this clearing and spell out SOS with our bodies. I don't know if I'd have thought that. I think I would have tried to pull stuff out of the packs and use clothing to spell out SOS. But to physically use your own bodies, that kid's smart. Great idea, and something I will definitely remember if I'm ever in that position.
I cut the wood into small pieces. That makes it easier to start a fire. If you don't have an axe, you can take a piece of wood and hammer it on your knife. That will split it too.
This is called batoning, and I don't recommend it. Now, you may have noticed he brought firewood in, commercial firewood, and that's fine. It's training, right? If you get the skills, you can use that and apply it to found wood in the wild, and I'm sure he teaches a found wood. But one of the things I don't like about batoning is there's a lot of injury risk there.
Yuno also knows how to use a magnesium flint to start a fire without gas or lighter fluid.
It actually looks like she's using a ferro rod to me, but I would recommend that they all carry and use Bics. A ferro rod and magnesium chippings is a backup, and it's a bushcrafting thing. And survival and prepping, you want to go to fast, reliable, and it works. And a Bic will run out, as will a ferro rod over time. But a Bic is lighter and smaller than most ferro rods. They're using tiny ferro rods, you use long ones. So it's much faster and easier to start a fire. And a fire in certain circumstances is a matter of life and death.
Oh, look, Dad, I'm bleeding.
Yuno takes her injury in stride.
They all should be carrying small bottles of hand sanitizer because it's a great fire starter, but also for things like this. He should be cleaning his hands and then cleaning the wound before he covers that wound. You don't just cover a wound, take them out of the forest, and then if they get an infection, take them and get them antibiotics. In a survival prepping situation, you want to prevent the infection starting. That's the most important thing. So you wash your own hands and you clean out the area. Now you can use hydrogen peroxide as arguable, or you can just flush it with clean water and then use tweezers. Get it cleaned. Okay? It's only a little bit of blood, it's not a big deal. But the overriding thing here is prevention. Have gloves. Have 2 pairs of gloves for each member of the party. They're in Sweden. It's going to be cold in the winter.
Robin believes that these weekends in the woods have made his daughter tougher. After their meal, the training ends for the day, and the family returns home. While Sweden has taken part in peacekeeping missions, the country hasn't formally gone to war for over 200 years. For a long time, the country pursued a foreign policy of neutrality, and then one of military non-alignment. But the situation is changing rapidly. Ever since Russia illegally annexed the Crimean Peninsula in 2014, there's been mounting concern over a Russian invasion in Sweden.
I will leave it to the online experts to debate whether Sweden inside of NATO is safer than Sweden that was neutral. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great week. Love you all. Toodles. And next week on Swedish Prepping...
The Swedish island of Gotland lies in close proximity to the Russian enclave of Kaliningrad. One scenario in particular dominates the group session: the perceived threat by Russia. In the past years, Martin has invested several thousand euros in prepping. In case of a blackout, Martin makes sure to always have enough water in supply. Meanwhile, some 50 kilometers northeast of Stockholm, members from Sweden's Home Guard are rehearsing for a military emergency.
This is a rainy day sleeping in bed terrier production 2022.